here we are. It's 3:00, according to my iPad. Actually, it's 3:01. I'm Julie Newman. I'm the chair of Together 2012. I'm in the privileged position of being able to conduct this discussion this afternoon, while Ju and Robin are on the Together Unlocked show upstairs. My technical assistant today is Josh, who's been working alongside us. We have Chris Burrows, who's our interpreter, our sign language interpreter. And at the moment, I don't know what your screens are like, but she's sharing one of my screens. We have Katie from Global Captioning, who's doing the captioning for us. And my wonderful guests. I never know where you are on these Zoom things, so I'll go to my right, and I've got Mandy Colleran. And at the bottom, I've got Vicky, and I can never pronounce your name. Pronounce it for me, Vicky.
Reford Sinnott.
Reford Sinnott. I was going to say Reford, and I suddenly caught myself. Today, I'm wearing a lovely purple shirt in honour of the occasion. I've got it over my black T-shirt because I've got a pad on my shoulder because I've got a problem with a thing there. So I'm just covering it up and trying to be a bit tidy. I've got gold and silver long hair, ever growing, and I'm wearing dark rimmed glasses. I'm sitting on a black settee, and behind me there's a red, black and white Spanish sort of revolutionary type picture, which is actually, I was going to say it's a poster, but it's not. It's more of a banner, a flag. So that's me. I'm going to hand over to Mandy if you want to give an audio description of your fishes as well as yourself. That would be great.
Hi, I'm Mandy Colleran. I'm in my flat in London. I'm a short woman with a round face. I wear grey, kind of thick glasses. Trendy, obviously. I have light purple hair. And I'm wearing a kind of yellowy green, I think they call it pistachio jumper. For some reason, because of something I was involved with last week, there is still the remnants behind me of a kind of green screen image of myself underwater. So do please ignore that or watch the fishes if we get too boring. Thank you. Hey, Vicky.
And Vicky.
Hello, hi, yes, I'm Vicky. I'm a tall white woman in my 50s. I've got dyed teal hair. I'm wearing dark rimmed glasses, a green and cream coloured scarf and a black top, and I'm sitting in my home study.
Thank you. So, what a wonderful panel we have. I wanted to, we're doing this in anticipation of showing the film this evening, which Tube channel, but I think we're showing it as part of our film festival because we think it's very special and carries a very, very powerful message about powerful women. Vicky, I think was it yourself that was getting it all organised and collating everything and making it happen?
That's right, yes. We were lucky enough to receive our Little Cog, the company that I am artistic director of, received emergency response funding from Arts Council, and we knew that in addition to stabilising and keeping our organisation safe so that we could continue to make disability-led work, we also wanted some artistic output. So we commissioned some artists, and then we created this piece of work ourselves as a company and brought in our wonderful cast, Liz Carr, Mandy Colleran and B. Webster. I was also in the piece, but I was the low budget, low budget stand-in, as it were, with other illustrious cast members. I was very lucky in that regard.
And where did you start? How on earth did you know where to begin with it?
Well, so I'm a writer anyway, so I knew I wanted to write something that reflected the time. I wanted to challenge the notion that had begun. A new narrative sort of was created early on in the pandemic that described disabled people as vulnerable, and a sort of this blanket term was used, which really, again, was another term that reduced our status, that made us sound dependent, passive, and almost that we'd be lucky to make it out of this pandemic, given all sorts of things that were going on. And so I wanted to write something that just challenged the myths around vulnerability without saying this isn't awful, that disabled women are disproportionately affected by the pandemic, and that our visibility is a lifeline, quite genuinely a lifeline. And so I knew that the piece needed to be about women. It needed to challenge those myths. And so it was a deliberate decision to make the characters multi-layered, almost larger than life in some ways, while still being relatable and real. And so, there were quite a few decisions, in forming there are quite a few strands in forming the decisions that we took.
I think the need to be real comes over very, very well, actually, in the film itself, because although we've got 4 actors portraying 4 characters, the storyline I think is very recognizably real. How did you develop the storyline?
So initially I came up with the 4 characters, and I had rough ideas of what I wanted them each to represent and say. But then it was really important to me, as it is in my practice generally, to involve other people in that conversation. And so that's when I began conversations with Mandy, Liz and Bea, so that we could inform the characters from our experiences, from our or experiences of people that we knew and understood. So it was after those initial conversations that I then went away, wrote the pieces, and originally the idea, because of lockdown, was that they were going to be 4 monologues, which they still are. So the characters, for people who haven't seen the film, don't interact. They are 4 character studies almost. But the way that we edited them was that they did cut across each other, because there are some common themes, there are some connecting points, and so it was important that we were able to create a character. The other part of the process then was that once the scripts went to the actors, they were tweaked again so that they felt natural, that there were natural patterns of speech for each of the actors, and just trying to keep it as real as possible.
That's really helpful. Can I go to Mandy? And Mandy, can I ask you, because presumably this came out of the blue to you in the first instance, or was it something that you had in your mind as well?
No, Vicky kind of emailed me actually just before she was putting the application for the funding in, and said she was planning to do it, and would I be interested if she got the funding? And of course I said, yeah, that sounds great. I mean, it was just an idea for monologues about that there was no bare bones, and she just asked me, you know. So I said, yeah, I would be very interested. And then I got the email to say, brilliant, she got the money, which was great. And so, yeah, obviously, you know, as a disabled woman in the pandemic and as a performer, it was such a great opportunity. And also, Vicky and I know each other from kind of going to conferences and being on Zoom meetings now, but we'd never actually worked together. Although we'd always hit it off and used to find each other at various conferences and have a cup of tea and a goss, you know. So the opportunity to work with Vicky was something that as well was very attractive. And yeah, I mean, the first time the four of us all met, we had a Zoom conversation with Vicky and with each other, really. And we just, as Vicky said, we talked about our experiences. And Vicky asked us some particular questions, I think, for her research, like had any of us developed any rituals or habits during the pandemic that we didn't necessarily have before. So for anyone watching the film later, my character, like myself, loves a cup of coffee. So watch out for that little ritual. So, you know, some of the things, although the character isn't me, some of the quirks and stuff of each of the characters come from our own personal experiences or our views of the world, if you like. So yeah, and then again, you know, I'd not worked with Liz and I didn't know B actually at all. So for the four of us to be able to do something together. And then what was great, as Vicky kind of mentioned, was within each of the scripts, there were connections. So I connect with Liz's character over my community activism, shall we say, and the things I want going on. And then I'd also connect with Bee's character because she lives in the flat above me. And I'm able to hear a lot, let's put it that way. So yeah, so that was really nice, because one of the things that's kind of hard certainly for me as an actor, you know, I enjoy working with people, being in a room with people. So at least to have those connections with the other characters was great. So even though you're not working with people per se, you know, there's no backwards and forwards, there's no dialogue, as if you will. From the way that Vicky very skillfully wrote it and edited it, it actually looks more like a dialogue than just 4 straight monologues. And I think that also makes it much more interesting to watch.
I would agree with that. I think Floating Past Your Head, accompanied by a little sea turtle. But yeah, I would agree. I'm not a big fan of monologues. I think, you know, sort of they require a lot of attention. But I thought the way that, Vicky, that you broke this up was really interesting. And for me, you know, just as a punter, it worked very, very well. How did you? Is that something that you would usually do anyway, or is that something new for you, Vicky?
So I'm just thinking back to previous works. I have written monologues. I did a one woman show, which I wrote and directed, and someone else was in the real world, the world before COVID, which toured. But it wasn't written as a monologue. It was a very dynamic piece of work, and the performer, Jackie Phillips, played 9 characters in that across all of history. Yeah, and so I tend to write in quite an episodic way anyway. And this piece of work was completely new to me. My theatre writing is quite different to this piece of work and to a previous piece of work I did in lockdown, another short film called Siege, because obviously it's a very different form to theatre, and also I wanted to have a much wider, almost universal in some ways, recognition and relatability. And the work I write for theatre is usually quite multi-layered. And I think that was still that's still in these pieces, but just in a different way, and I hope in a, you know, in an easily accessible way. Sometimes in theatre, I do make my audiences work hard, but not because I don't want the work to be accessible. So yeah, I knew that I didn't want to do a talking head style piece of work. I did want there to be some dynamic cross-cutting of the characters, so that we'd dip in and out of their lives as we do, as you know, as we're doing in this new world, online, in Zoom meetings and in various other ways. So yeah, it meant just that structure meant hopefully it would keep the interests alive of the audience, but the performances are so rich anyway that you know, there was no danger that they wouldn't be. But yes, it was really an interesting process, certainly artistically, to create work in this way.
Certainly, I think that it shows the dynamicism. I knew I wasn't going to be able to say that properly. How dynamic it was. But I think that really shows. And for somebody like me, it held my interest. You know, I always hope that I'm an appreciative audience, but I know my mind can wander sometimes because I'm human. And I did find the film extremely dynamic, and it held my interest. Mandy, what was this a new way of working completely for you, or had you done anything similar previously?
No, I mean, it was very much. I mean, I don't think, I mean, other than kind of auditions, I've not really done monologue before. I'm certainly never done anything over Zoom in a performative way. You know, up to then, I'd only done Zoom meetings and the usual quizzes and, you know, Zooming with friends, and had a birthday party over Zoom. There wasn't much of acting then. So yeah, no, it was, and it was a very interesting thing to do. You know, it was great as well because you know, one of my PAs was also employed by Little Cog to act as the camera woman. So Jerry filmed it, and that was great to have somebody around. And Vicky was on Zoom directing, so that was. I mean, you know, there were lots of laughs in the day as well. And I mean, the great thing to do, because you know, was the quality of the writing anyway that Vicky did, and also her generosity really in allowing us to tweak things, you know, and kind of just go, if we just change that word, would that be fun? Would that be even more funny? You know, you know, or just using the kind of cadence that you have naturally. Obviously, as somebody with quite a strong northern accent, shocking, I know, but you know, I was self, I think, to certain rhythms and kind of words that are even funnier with a Scouse accent than I might be even, you know, even just in plain old Queen's English. So yeah, so it was just it was a really great experience. It genuinely was a real pleasure to do. And then it was weird. The weird thing, I think, was we filmed it, and then, of course, none of us had seen each other's thing until Ricky did the full letters. So I think it was only the day before it was launched. Because she sent us our bits, once our individual bits, but we still have no sense of how it fitted together, although we knew it would be kind of edited in that way, because Vicky had told us that, you know, so, and we'd only received our own bits of script as well, so we didn't know. You were kind of thinking about, you know, you were wondering to yourself what points were in common within the, you could hazard a guess. So yeah, so then to see it all, you know, which is, yeah, to see it all in, well, I think we only saw it at the launch, didn't we, Vicky? The full thing with everybody else.
That's right, yes.
Yeah. Vicky was still blessed. You know, not only did she write it, acting it, direct it, everything, She also did all the audio description and the subtitling as well, captioning. So, you know, we made her work for their money.
That's the reality of
Yeah.
low budget projects, you know, and that's not to diminish the quality of the work of any of the actors. But yeah, it very much was a DIY process in lots of ways, because we had to invent it. You know, we were in this new situation, weren't we? And with the pandemic, and it was a completely new way of working, but we made it work, you know, and we made the best of that situation, I think.
It was hilarious at one point, you know, because I was performing. My PA Jerry was filming it on her iPhone on a tripod, and Vicky was directing via Zoom on a tablet. So at various points when each shot was being set up, Jerry would have to carry Vicky on a tablet and try and put Vicky in front of the viewfinder on the iPhone so she could see the shot before. So that was interesting, wasn't it, Vicky? I mean, I just watching it was hilarious. So it was very funny. Vicky being walked across my kitchen just ahead.
Yes, I was quite. I mean, I felt like an empress, really, being on a cushion, and I'm going to write that in as my rider on all future works. And I did just want to say, actually, because I think a few people have had the misconception that we actually filmed it on Zoom, so that when they watch the film, they're going to see, you know, a similar thing to this on Zoom. But we just use Zoom as the tool. People who have seen it will know that we directed through Zoom, but we didn't use Zoom to film it itself. Just in case there's anybody who, you know, and I have a couple of friends who can't use Zoom for various access reasons. So we did, and we filmed it safely. We were all women who were shielding.
Yeah.
That was an important and integral part of the piece. And so we needed people who were in our own personal little safe bubbles to be the camera operators. And when we say cameras, what we mean is phones. And, you know, we did film it on pretty decent phones, it has to be said. But that was part of the safety aspect, was minimizing external equipment, external people. And so in a disability context, it was really, you know, really interesting, but also I think really makes the piece even more so of its time, very specific to these circumstances.
Yeah.
I think that's right. It's the quality of the filming is excellent. How many hours a day were you working on it, Vicky?
Well, we were pretty magical, and it was different for each actor because everybody had different access requirements. If we put it into, you know, into hours, we probably did each person's shoot in one full day, one full working day of shooting, which actually is phenomenal. And that we would probably build in more time in the next time. But also that's a tribute to the, you know, the skill and the talent of the performers.
Absolutely.
A tribute to the way Vicky's structured, because we got, as well as our scripts, you know, for the filming, with very structured details about where the shots were going to be. So, you know, it was a very organised shoot as well. You know, not necessarily we played about with the order of the filming of which bits, but Vicky organised the script in such a way, you know, that you said this bit from one camera angle and then another bit from another camera angle. So, you know, again, that made it, because lovely though my PA Jenny is, she isn't a professional camera woman. So, you know, that helped all of us, I think. You know, so yeah, so it was a real It was a real experience. It was great, and honestly, we just laughed, didn't we? All
We
day.
did.
You know,
Yeah.
hopefully not when I'm on screen, but yeah, I mean, it was just, because it was such a bizarre situation. It really was. It's like, I can't believe we're doing this, and your director isn't in Saltburn, and I'm in a flat in Clerkenwell, and it was great. It was great fun, and the script, the scripts. And I loved Blanche. She isn't me, but there's a lot of me in it. And, I really liked the character I played as well, which makes a difference, I think, for you as a performer, Because she isn't me, but yeah, but I did like her. Bless her. You meant well.
She was a good one. She was a good one.
They all were. They were all very strong women.
I think it's astounding that you were able, but isn't it brilliant? I mean, well, absolutely. You had a very strong cast there, Vicky. But I think to film in one day is sort of astounding, really. I mean, it's a real tribute to the skill of everybody involved, I think. And to think that it was done on, was it predominantly?
Oh, Julie, I'm so sorry. I think we're losing your
iPhones, Vicky.
Yeah, sorry, Julie, you keep kind of fading in and out, I'm afraid. I may look underwater, but you sound like maybe you are.
I think you've lost me.
Oh, we can hear you now. But your picture's frozen.
So, Mandy, you were filming on an iPhone. Is that right?
Yes, my PA used her own iPhone.
Hello.
Yes, sorry.
Julia, I think we've lost you. If you leave and then try joining back in, that might fix your sound.
So sorry, guys.
No problem. The joys of Zoom and technology.
Absolutely.
I mean, I was amazed, actually. I don't know about Vicky, but probably just shows what an old person I am. But also, I mean, hopefully for people to judge, but just the quality of it. They don't look like they've just been filmed, I don't think, on phones, which they all were, is my understanding.
That's right.
Shows how kind of well developed, I think, and what technology. Because even like 2 or 3 years ago, I don't think the quality of what we were able to produce would have been as good.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. Yeah, I think you're right about that, Mandy, that technology is such with phones and cameras. We were just really lucky that everybody had such good quality cameras on their phones. So that was very fortunate.
Yeah.
But yes, I mean, I think also because we did so much planning as well in advance that really helped. With, as you said before, with camera angles and what we were then able to use to edit with. So I can see that Julie's back with us.
Hey, Julie.
But I'm thinking that her screen might still be frozen.
If you can hear us, Julie, we're still whispering on. You're all right, love.
Yeah, we're still chatting. And so technology, that was a learning curve really in terms of making the piece.
Yes.
And just how DIY we were able to be. I had thought about other possibilities of whether I would need to send cameras to the actors or whether we would need to send sound equipment. And certainly it was a big learning curve, for filmmakers who are interested in that side of things.
Hello.
Hi,
Thank
Julie.
you for continuing without me.
It's rude to continue without you, possibly, but we've given it a good go.
Fortunately, neither of us, both of us have got the gift of the gab.
Yeah.
So,
We said beforehand we can both talk for England.
yes,
So we've got lots to talk about.
we have.
Disabled women in so many situations are silenced or not encouraged, but
Yeah.
that doesn't bother either myself or Mandy.
No, we relish it.
Yeah. And that was one of the things actually about the characters, Mandy, wasn't it? That they weren't typical in any way. We
No.
wanted to show that they weren't dependent and passive, and very much Blanche was a community organizer.
Me?
Not very well, Julie.
Can anybody hear me?
Yeah,
Hello. Can you hear me?
We can hear you saying, "Can you hear me?" One of the joys of Zoom.
Yeah. Can you hear us?
I'm so pleased.
I think you're back, but your connection's still a bit weak.
I'm blessed with that.
Oh, bye, Julie.
Dear. Oh, that's
what I'm going to do. For those that are watching, the disembodied voice is the tech person, but I haven't got my camera on because no one wants to see my face. What I'm going to do, I'm going to try and call Julie and see if I can give her some assistance, or I might just get her to talk to me and then I'll stick the questions to you.
Yeah,
so
that's great.
In a second.
Mandy and I will just chat, and please just interrupt us if you've got a question.
If anyone in the audience has any questions, maybe now's a good time to ask as well.
Yeah, great, Kate.
So you've got the question and answer and the live chat, so you can always ask any questions through the question and answer and the live chat if you want to ask anything.
Just to quickly let Julie know that we can see you.
I'm back. I'm back
Hey,
now.
You're back.
Yeah. Can you? I do feel like Major Tom. Sort of.
Yes.
Can you hear me, Major Tom?
Yeah, we can hear you and see you now. Brilliant.
Brilliant. You've done a cracking job, I have to say, of continuing to chatter, and I do appreciate the fact that we are all women who could talk for England, I think. But I was so impressed, Vicky, at the there's a word. It's about not being an engineer. It's about being a farmer who you make things with bits of string and paper. It's called a bricoleur, I think. But I love that approach. But could you tell me, did you document it? Would you be able to use this process in some way to record the process and to actually share it for people who perhaps haven't considered working in this way before, because it is innovative? But I mean, what Mandy's done and Liz and Bea have done is innovative, but what you've done as the driving force, I think, is particularly interesting for people to share.
Yeah, it's it is, and it's part of a journey, because I'd made Siege, which was the one person, 12-minute monologue. I had no idea I was going to make another piece of work. And each time I've learned something new. But absolutely, that process is really valuable, I think, particularly as disabled performance makers, in whichever form. As there's definitely some useful things for me to share and pass on. And all of us from the actors' perspective as well, because it was in some ways liberating and great to be able to continue to make work, but then it wasn't without its challenges. And I'm sure, as Mandy alluded to there, all of us like to be in a rehearsal room, bouncing off other people's energy.
Yes, yes.
I mean, it was interesting when they had the Q&A afterwards, and one of the things certainly all of us as actors said, you know, was if we ever did it again, it would be really nice to have those characters maybe interact with each other a bit more. It's kind of like this was the introduction to them. You know, not that we're dropping too many hints, Vicky. If that were a future option, you know, because I think we all really liked our own characters, and it's the only thing I think for us as performers was the chance not to. Although it looks, when you view it, you know, it doesn't look as, it isn't about just 4 talk events, which is great, but actually not having that interaction with other characters makes it a very different experience.
I can imagine, and it's a new one to everybody, isn't it? Julie McNamara wrote in the comments on the YouTube that she thought it should just be the beginning, Vicky. So I'm warning you that I think people are starting to rumble the process and to think, you know, I actually think it's very accessible. You know,
I mean, I think we are ingenious and inventive people. I mean, as disabled people, and we were digital before anybody else was, and you know, finding accessible ways to work. But absolutely, just to answer your previous question, I absolutely will be sharing the process, and in fact, there isn't anything terribly mysterious about it. But that's something I'm really, you know, going to be happy to share. I did see Julie McNamara's comment, and she'd said she wanted to see more from these characters as well. And a few people have said, you know, can we see more from these characters, which is just unbelievable in some ways, because the response has been phenomenal, and that feels, you know, that just feels amazing for all of us, I'm sure, but for me too. I feel incredibly lucky. This happened in such bizarre and difficult circumstances for lots of disabled women all over the world, you know, in this pandemic, and so that makes it, I suppose, even more fulfilling, the response that we've had, that it's resonated with people. And the captioned version, as you said, had over 900 views, and the other versions have had, you know, combined probably about another 400 views. And other news, which I was kind of saving for today, was that The Space, who work closely with the BBC and other broadcasters, have taken Funny Peculiar under its wing, and they've offered us support with distribution, which is completely new to me. And also Salamander Street Books are going to publish the script, which is a new thing for me as well. I haven't had work published before, and it's only publishable because of the, you know, the input from everybody. So that's very much acknowledged and valued. But this is just, you know, these things are phenomenal kind of things that are happening to a piece of work that was almost made by accident or you know, by luck, because of, well, the availability of everybody. You know, Liz and Mandy are all people I've wanted to work with in this way for a long time, and so the circumstances presented themselves, and yeah, we feel incredibly lucky to have had this opportunity, and hopefully there will be ways that we can extend these characters.
I know people would welcome that, and I think it's very, very good news. Thank you for sharing that, Vicky. I think for me as a documenter, everything about this piece of work sort of like is ticking every single box. I love observing and sharing the creative practice of our artists certainly within disability arts. I think we are, as Mandy said, we're problem solvers. We wake up every morning and we have another problem. But we can't waste time sitting around moaning about it, because it's not going to resolve it. And there isn't anybody to come in and whoosh in and rescue us from these dilemmas, our daily dilemmas, or our daily difficulties. So we just got to get on and do it. And also life becomes a bit of a drag if all you can do is sit around and moan about it. That's my personal philosophy. For me, what I would rather do is do some problem solving, think about things perhaps in a slightly different way, not head on, perhaps sideways on a little bit, and sort of see what creatively can be done with a situation which potentially could be difficult. And that sounds to me as if that's what you guys, all of you involved in the production, have done. You've looked at it sideways and you've thought, we want to work, we want to get on and do this, what are we going to do about it? And for that, if I had a hat, I would take it off to you, all of you. I think it's a lovely production.
I do think, Julie, though, Vicky has to take most of the credit for that, because, as a performer, you can only do so much with what you're given. And, when you're given such a gift that we were, I mean, yeah, you're paid to be an actor, but, you can tell when things are good or not good, and you relish getting really good pieces of work like this. So, the fact that it's being, taken up in such a way and is going to be published, it's very nice. That's very flattering for performers, but the real credit has to go to Vicky for that, because it really is. And this isn't a one-off in some ways. She talks about, well, Vicky's been working as a writer and as a theatre practitioner and working with actors and stuff for a long time, both nationally and within the North East specifically. So, this is kind of the culmination of her development as well as a theatre maker, whatever the trendy term is these days. So, and it's just been a privilege to be part of that. And if we've added, certainly for me, if I've added something to that, then that's great. And it was such a gift to be given, that opportunity to do that.
I want to pick up that point, Mandy, because I think it's very important. I mean, that's why I have such a passion for documentation. Things don't just happen. It's not an accident that you are an actor who can pick up those sort of roles and work with it and create a performance which pleases the person who's written and directed the piece, but also pleases us as an audience. You've been acting for a long time, Mandy. How many years have you been acting now?
Oh,
donkey's years.
Obviously, I started when I was 7. I did my first national tour with Grey in, I think, 95, like 95, 96. And before that, I was doing kind of unpaid, well, not unpaid, but not funded performance stuff with No Excuses. So comedy's always been a thing I've been interested in and stuff. So yeah. But I don't. Well, I did with No Excuses, but I don't create work at the moment. And as an actor, you can only go with what's created for you. So you are very dependent. Yes, then you're responsible to do the best job you can with the material you're given. And sometimes that can be very difficult when the material isn't that great, as we all know. Do you know what I mean? Whether you're making, a piece of theatre or whether you're making a scarf with cheap crap wool. Do you know what I mean? You can't only go with. So that's very kind of you to say that. And yes, I have had quite a lot of experience around, so that does, that is something you can bring to bear in terms of. But I don't have a lot of experience personally of working in front of a camera, so that's also been a bit of a learning because most of the performance I've done has been live and theatre based. So
Absolutely.
I don't have Liz's, Liz's TV experience, for instance. So that was quite I mean, it wasn't an intensive shoot or anything. Don't get me wrong, but learning to do stuff on camera to a camera, was quite a learning curve for me as well.
It's a different skill set, isn't it? But I mean, Vicky, you've been around a wee while as well, haven't you? So what was your background? What brought you to this point?
Oh gosh, I started in the theatre of punk, which when I was young, and I wanted to change the world, and I wanted to kick ass while I was doing it. And I've been through various political incarnations, and by that I don't mean that I've ever moved from being a true socialist, but feminism's really important to my work, and creating voices for women, and obviously just disability activism. And I mean, I did train. I was very lucky. I went to university, trained as a playwright and director. I didn't do very well in the writing side of things. I didn't get on very well with my tutor, and so I left writing alone for quite a long time, and mainly directed. So I've actually worked with lots of disabled writers. I've mentored other disabled writers, but and I've also had other roles in disability arts. I've had kind of strategic CEO roles in the Republic of Ireland, where I was the CEO of Arts and Disability Ireland. The same with Arcadea, which used to be known as Nordaf, which is going back again. But I really wanted to return to my practice about 10 years ago, which is when I set up Little Cog. And I knew I wanted to settle in the Northeast again, which was my original home. And yeah, I wanted to be able to have a hand in the roles that were created and the way the stories were told of disabled people. Wanted to challenge, the usual dominant negative myths and stereotypes. And that's a really big part of who I am as an artist, but also who I am as a person, because like all of us, we're disabled people 24/7. It's not a job. It's not a career move to be a disabled artist. But it's really important that our voices are heard and that we create, that I'm part of Little Cog's commitment is creating platforms for those voices and for our stories to be told the way we want to tell them.
That's so important. And I think you're hitting on something which is critical to me, which was very noticeable actually in every interaction that I've had with you, Vicky, to be honest. Your work reflects for me the joy of independent living. We're not the sum of our impairments or our medical conditions or our this or our other. We are individuals. We live independently. We have the capacity to think independently, and perhaps with support at times. But we're not somebody who is a wheelchair user or somebody who has learning difficulties. But we are creative people and artists within our own rights, and I really respect that in your work. I think you emphasize that beautifully.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That means a lot. It is really important that we, or for me in my work, that we are represented as complicated, interesting, three-dimensional characters who live fulfilling lives. There's those myths around us living in misery, and yes, we have a struggle, not because of our conditions or impairments, but because of the external world, the barriers and the attitudes, and the perceptions that continue to be told. And And so it is important to me to show that we are active, that we are independent, and that we contribute.
Yes.
And that question about contribution is absolutely nothing to do with capitalism and economy. You know, and the way we often value and measure quality of life in this country relates, or in the West, relates to that. And you know, for me, that's a huge mistake, and I want to question, absolutely question that. It's about what we bring to other people and to our communities, and so wherever we are in the disability community, we're making a difference to somebody's life.
I think that's right. I think that's a very important statement to remember. We drop a pebble in a pond, we don't see where the ripples go, but the ripples are still there. That was one of the guiding principles when we set up Together 2012, that we had such a strong belief in the need for Together 2012 as a Paralympic and 2012 legacy. There was nothing else going on culturally for us as disabled artists. And David Morris, who I think possibly you knew, or some of you knew, who basically was the person who, when he died sadly in 2010, but he was the person who helped us to establish the principles behind 2012. And it doesn't matter, in a way, if we only have 4 people watching Together Unlocked on our 102nd episode. The fact is that it's there, and it demonstrates without any doubts whatsoever the fact that we are creative people, that we have a commitment to what we're doing, we have a commitment to disability arts, and you know, between all of us, we're creating a legacy which will come out of 2020. And I think that's one of the things which strikes me particularly deeply, Vicky and Mandy, with the work that we've been talking about this afternoon, is that this is going to be a phenomenal response and record of 2020. There's nothing else like it around. You know, I think partly because of the uniqueness of Vicky, of your work, but also of the actors that you chose. You know, we have our lovely strong women on screen, and whatever happens in the future, you know, we've got 4 powerful, strong women telling stories and being alive and being vibrant and wonderful, and being available. I think that availability is critical. Shall we see? I'm mindful that I've been prattling on a bit more than I intended to, but shall we see, Josh, are there any questions that anybody's asked for us? If anybody wants to ask us a question, there is a chat facility, I've been told, and a QA facility on the Zoom function. So please just do ask any questions while we have a little bit of time.
Yeah, there's a chat at the bottom if people do want to ask questions, they can pop them in.
Do you want to be our mediator for that, Josh? Because I can't see anything like that.
Yes. Yeah, I can read out any questions that do come in.
Okay, but while we're filling the space until this happens, Mandy, is there anything that you wanted to say to, you know, to sort of like get a final word in from your perspective?
Yeah, no, just again to say what a joy it was, you know, what a privilege it really was to do, you know, to be paid to do, you know.
It is good.
Although obviously I wasn't paid enough to worry the DWP, obviously. But yeah, no, I mean, it was just a real privilege. You know, it was a really lovely thing, A, to be asked to be part of, and B, to be part of, you know, and, you know, to be part of such a group of 4 disabled women, you know, and to be led by somebody with the artistic and political integrity of Vicky, was a joy. And, again, within that, the space that we were given as individual actors to develop and, tweak the scripts and develop the characters in certain ways and make them our own, if you like, from the paper and from the idea that Vicky had of them as individuals. So, and that again, that's, as I said earlier, that is, that's not a gift that you get very often as an actor, so, yeah.
So I take it you'd do it again?
Yeah. Yeah. Availability. Yeah, no, absolutely. I would, particularly this project. Yeah, and it would be great to be able to see, Blanche B. Cuba and sorry, Vicky. I'm Vicky's character. Sorry,
Raquel.
Raquel. That's it. I was going to say Roxy, and I knew it wasn't Roxy. All women together again and maybe interacting with each other, I think would certainly be great. So, so I'll look forward to the script next week then, Vic.
Vicky, what would you like to say to our lovely viewers?
Well, this has been a joy to be able to talk about such a lovely, enjoyable experience, of working with other disabled women. And we mustn't underestimate the value of those opportunities, for sure. And hopefully we can make sure that more of those opportunities happen. It's a privilege that the film is being screened at this festival. That gives us, so much. And we're being screened alongside the work of other amazing, powerful disabled women. So please, do tune in tonight and see that range of work. I haven't seen all of the work. Some of the work's is premiering tonight. So that's very exciting. I can't wait to see that. Thank you for the support of our work. It's appreciated.
Oh, how could we not support it? Sort of like, don't be silly, Vicky. No, of course we would always support your work. It's been a real pleasure for me. I'm mindful. I'm just trying to work out the actual proper real life time. I've got 2 minutes. Just to say then, thank you both, and thanks to Chris, our sign language interpreter, and also to Katie. Tonight's showing starts at 7 o'clock. As Vicky quite rightly said, there's other short films as well to accompany this. There's a short film by Deborah Caulfield, Vilma Jackson, and Sahira Khan. Sahira has been working with Together now, sort of like for on and off for most of the summer. So it'd be interesting to see what she's showing. The subject heading, the topic heading, not the topping. Well, I suppose it could be the topping, is powerful women. And that's exactly what we've been talking about this afternoon. We've been talking about the power of disabled women and the power of women being strong. And I have to say, Mandy, your mermaid tale continues to distract and amuse me. But we're coming up to the end of the show now. I'd like also to thank Josh Surgener for his excellent technical support, and to apologise for my breakdown in broadband earlier on. And what a wonderful! Oh, here we are. We've got Debbie Caulfield saying, "Before you go, Josh, could you read that out for us, love, please?"
Yeah. So it's a message from Deborah Caulfield. It says, "Before you go, thank you."
Oh, that's lovely. Thank you, Deborah, for watching. Deborah. Yeah. So I think we'll say goodbye for now until 7 o'clock. Mandy, stay safe. It's such a treat to see you, my friend, and I have missed you. And Vicky, it's always
we've all missed each other, haven't we? That's thank goodness for things like Zoom, ropey though they may be. Sometimes at least it is a way of us connecting. finally, and so, well, thank you for inviting me to be part of this discussion, and thank you for the opportunity to talk about something I've loved doing as well.
Oh, well, it's been a joy. And as I say to everybody, please stay safe, stay well, and stay happy, and use what's available to keep yourself entertained, and maybe think about doing something yourself. It would be great, wouldn't it? And when you do, send it in to Together 2012, because we would always welcome it. So I'm going to say bye-bye now. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.